Hello, I'm Carolyn Bertozzi. My lab is interested in using chemical tools combined with biological tools to develop new kinds of medicines in order to treat diseases that have high burden of unmet need. I'm heading into the lab now, so walk with me.
How would you explain your research to a middle schooler?
Well, basically, I'm kind of a combination of a chemist and a biologist. If you study chemistry, you're studying molecules and how they behave. If you're studying biology, you're studying life. In our research, we use the chemistry, the molecules, as tools to learn more about life, and specifically about human health and human disease. And by understanding how diseases work at the level of the molecules, this gives us ideas for how we can develop new kinds of medicines. Hi, Stephen. How's it looking so far?
What's one thing you wish more people knew about your work?
Most people who study biology are familiar with DNA, RNA, and proteins, but in our lab, we spend a lot of time thinking about a different kind of biological molecule, which is called a carbohydrate. Not the kind of carbohydrates you eat, but we study carbohydrates that play important roles in cancer, in the brain, in neurodegeneration, and also in autoimmune diseases. And Stephen here is studying a carbohydrate which is important in a rare genetic disease that causes neurodegeneration in children. I wish more people knew about carbohydrates because they're so important, but it's a pretty new area of biology.
Do you have a favorite piece of lab equipment or tool?
I sure do. In fact, we happen to be right next to it. Let me show you this amazing instrument, which is called a mass spectrometer. And this particular mass spectrometer is very powerful. It is able to analyze large protein molecules, which is very difficult to do. And the way it does this is we put our proteins in a test tube, in a solution, and we inject them with a needle into this instrument. And there's a giant magnet which causes the molecules to basically orbit around a field, an electrical field, in the gas phase, and we can measure the mass of the protein with very high precision.
Do you remember the first time you fell in love with science?
The class that did it for me was organic chemistry. It's a class that had a reputation as being very difficult and intimidating for pre-meds, but against expectations, I really had a knack for the subject, and I decided in that moment that I should become a chemistry major and become an organic chemist, for life, which I am.
What did you first get your research funding for?
My very first research grant was from the National Institutes of Health to support the development of a new type of chemistry. We called that chemistry bioorthogonal chemistry, and it was the kind of chemistry that we could perform in living systems, including inside the body of living animals. That was one of our first aha moments. And that project was my very first grant.
What's the first thing you do when you wake up in the morning?
Have my coffee. 2 cups, black, and then hit the gym.
If you could have one superpower, what would it be?
The slap technique on the electric bass, which is something I've been struggling with for a long time. And if you play the bass, you've got to have that.
How do you keep going when the work gets tough?
Well, the work is always tough. There's always challenges in science. There's frustrations, failures. So you have to be resilient to be a biomedical scientist, to be sure.
Early bird or night owl?
I'm kind of a middle bird.
Phone call or text?
Text, definitely.
Sweet or savory?
Savory.
Mountains or beach?
Beach.
Breakfast, lunch, or dinner?
Dinner.
Favorite destination?
I would say home.
Pineapple on pizza, yes or no?
Definitely, absolutely.
Do you have a quote you live by?
A quote I live by, it's that the most effective leaders have 2 ears and 1 mouth and use them in that proportion.